Hey everyone, how is everyone today? I hope you're all having an amazing week, a great week, really productive, and really looking after yourselves. Thank you so much for joining us, wherever you're joining us from. Please let us know in the comments as you join and let us know what you think about the topic that we're going to be speaking about today. My name is Rhoda, but I also go by the name Harriet, and this is Abundantly You podcast. I come here every single week on a Thursday with new interviews, and we explore the realm of business and spirituality. Because every really, I'm really interested in spirituality. It's the one thing that I think really governs so many things, and there's so many forms of spirituality, and I love exploring all of them, and also just really having guests doing different amazing things to empower us as we journey in this life. So my guest today is called Isabel Hunt, and she is an amazing woman, very, very beautiful soul, and she sees in color, which is so cool. But we will speak about that, and we'll speak about so many different things with regards to the spiritual environment, the collective consciousness, and just really different things that flow through today. This is going to be very channeled today because we haven't prepared, but we're really looking forward to really sharing this time together. So I'm going to bring on Isabel to come and tell us more about herself. Because she can tell us more about herself. I think I prefer when guests actually talk about themselves because they do it so much justice. Um, and your bio is out as well anyway, so they'll be able to follow along as well. So welcome,
Thank you.
Isabel. It is such a joy to have you, and you look so radiant and
Thank you
so
so much.
beautiful. Thank you so much for honoring the call and making time to be here today. I know you've got a manic, a manic, chaotic life at the moment, not in a bad way, in a good way,
Yeah.
because beautiful things come out from chaos. It's all about perspective. So, welcome, and please share with our viewers about yourself and um, your journey. Who are you? What do you do? All of that fun stuff.
The fun stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And yes, it is a little chaotic right now because we're preparing for some great things to come into our life. But it is about being the calm in the storm, right? So for me, it's actually a time of elevated meditation to really stay grounded and to not fall back into this ego self of panic and anxiety and how am I going to do things and how are things going to work out and yeah, what are others gonna think? So it's a really good practice every time we get thrown into some kind of busy timeline within this lifetime. So to introduce myself, I'm originally from Germany. I moved to the US 2022, right? 13 years ago.
Wow,
Actually, almost exactly 13 years. And honestly, I have not been back to Germany since.
really?
No, I have not been able to visit my family because of political reasons. And then when we wanted to go, COVID hit, and now with everything, the requirements to travel, we won't do it.
Ridiculous,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, we'll see when we can go again. I would
Yeah.
love to celebrate my parents' 60th and my grandparents' 80th next year. So hopefully we can do that and combine that. But anyway. So yeah, I moved to the US 13 years ago for good, but I came to the US for the first time when I was 18, right after high school. I just felt this tremendous pull to come here for whatever reason, and I was freaking out because English wasn't my favorite whatsoever. When my English class went to England, I didn't go because we didn't have the money.
Wow.
So I never really did well with English. So that was a bit of a like, why am I even doing this? Why am I going to the US? But I felt this really tremendous pull to go, and then opportunities opened itself up, and I came. And when I came for the first time, it was almost like I've been here before. I knew I've been here before. It felt like coming home.
Mm.
Even though I cherish my home country, I cherish my family and honor, obviously, my background. But something inside of me, just really on a deep soul level, was almost like I'm coming home. And I kept hearing those messages that I'm here to complete something or to continue some sort of work. And I'm still not very clear on what that is or what that is
Mm.
supposed to be. But you just go one step at a time and it just unfolds itself.
Yeah.
And I learned English rather quickly, surprisingly to me, because I really thought I was a hopeless case, but I was doing well. I was doing well. Um, and then I went back to Germany. I got my degree in sociology and psychology. And then at the age of 25, 26, I came back to the US. And then a year later, I met my now husband. And we've been married for almost 12 years. So it's been quite the ride, and that's how I really gotten into spirituality as well, from the field of sociology and psychology to more of the spiritual approach to life. I almost call it spiritual sociology. I'm the most anti-sociologist that you can probably find, because sociology is all about empirical studies,
Mhm.
labels, understanding
Mm.
groups of people, where the way I experience the world is I see it as a huge web. Like, there are no groups for me. There's only the interaction of the individual within the community, within the global setting, almost like spinning a web. And how are we spinning the web? Where are people missing within that web? Like, you can almost for me, it's almost like that bird's eye view, where I can see where in that web are links missing
Mm.
that hold that web steady,
Mm.
and holding it together, because we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
um so that falls right back into the film that we launched last year. It's a multi-award winning film, which
Congratulations.
has
That is
been, thank you,
huge.
yes, your picture's in it too. I always love looking at it. It's been really a great experience, because I had no clue about filmmaking, but it just, again, how my son always said, when he was 4, he first came to me, and I was like, okay, kiddo, you need to slow down in the way you're doing school. Like, he is 8, he should be starting 3rd grade next school year, but he's already the 5th and 6th grade path. Like,
Wow.
he's already that far ahead. But you know what his answer was? He said, when you need the information, you can download them from the universe, and you have it. He sleeps on his books and knows it the next day.
That's fascinating,
Yeah.
because um, it's contrary to what we're taught. And I love it because
Yeah.
he's teaching you, but also teaching others around him.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just having this conversation with someone else, and she was saying that her daughter is her greatest teacher,
Hmm.
because we at times think that we are teaching them, but they're actually
Oh
teaching
no.
us, because there's so many things that we forgot to do.
Yeah.
Um, and that is such a beautiful story, and I just love that you brought that in, because I didn't know that. I have
Yeah.
heard of people who do that, and it's just fascinating that, to know that your son does that.
Yeah. Sometimes he's like, did I really say that? And I'm like, oh, yes, you did. And he's like, huh, okay, I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting for me, because when I started the whole film situation, the whole film project, I was like, I don't know where to start with this, but if I'm
So I
supposed to
want us
do
to
it,
go
it will
back
come, right?
before we actually speak about the film project. I
Mm.
want you ex- to kind of like describe how you see things, because people are not used to that. People are so I mean, some people don't even believe, about the spiritual realm or even psychic, or they do believe kinda, but they just information. I think
Right.
information always opens us up. And sometimes people might be functioning like that, but they do not know. And hearing you speak about that might activate them. I believe that we're all activators in
Yeah.
some way or form. Um, so just share a bit about how that is. When did you discover it, and how does it work for you? 'Cause it's so fascinating.
Well, I never really thought anything of it. I just thought everyone just thinks in color when you look at, letters and numbers in cities. I always just, the number 2 for me is red, 4 is yellow, 5 is blue. So it's all those different things, how I see, different colors. But it was interesting for me because depending on how you use them and within which context you use them, the color changes. The energy around the meaning of it changes. And so I never really quite knew what was going on or what the meaning was about that. I just knew that was it. And it's not like I go around and everything shows up in green and blue and yellow. I really have to focus in on it. Like it's my third eye that it's almost like translating in my head, where if I focus on it, this is what I can see if I'm intentional about it. And then I never thought anything of it. And until I came to the US and I got into ontological coaching, somatic psychology, and also healing modalities. And so the more I was digging, the more I received those information, like those, those little hints here and there that spelled out synesthesia. I'm like, okay, what's synesthesia? I mean, at least that's a scientific medical term, right? So I can use that as something, that's, oh yeah, no, this is actually scientifically proven that people are able to do that. And so
for
what
those
it does,
who love proof.
Yes, for those who love proof. I never see it as something medical or scientific, but in the end, science is spirituality. It all comes together, right? It just proves what we already know in the spiritual realm. And so I just had to figure out what that really meant for me. How am I supposed to use that? And so the more I meditated, the more I asked, the more I heard about the psychology of colors. Write down the psychology of colors. And then it came to
There's
the
actually
point.
a book out called Psychology of Colors.
Oh,
mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
I try not to remember the meaning of each color, like on purpose. I release that from my brain because I otherwise could become rather judgmental in what I think I should be seeing. And then, my mind gets in the way of my heart just acknowledging and just being in the moment, observing. So what it has done for me is that I realized that the most dominant color that I see around people is usually the message that their soul is communicating with me and what they need right now.
Oh,
so
we're gonna have to practice after this.
So it's not so much about, oh, it's a pretty color or this is what defines you. It's not. It's in the moment. Like literally when sometimes people ask me, okay, can you take a look at what the color is you see currently? And it goes really well with my theta healing practice as well, because I can tune in and I can go through their body, and within their body, I see different colors. And with that, I can determine, oh, okay, you might have an inflammation around your stomach because it shows within the color that there's something going on. But it changes, like from 1 minute to the next, it can change. If I work with clients, I see a dominant color, we start working on it, we're releasing old programs, downloading new programs, suddenly I see a different color and it changes. If I work with clients who are also very intuitive, most of the time they see the same color frequency as I see it. And it's always great to have that confirmation from clients. It's almost like, oh yeah, I saw this purple and green. I'm like, yes, okay. I did see that too. And I saw it swirling right around your throat or something, And then people are like, yeah, I saw that too. So it's very fascinating. And even with cities, I'm a visionary, so I really need to see the bigger picture. I'm not so great at, like, details can overwhelm me easily unless I'm really sitting grounded. Like I can one step at a time. Like I have to say it over and over in my head. One step at a time, one thing at a time. Otherwise I get overwhelmed. I'm better at seeing the overall picture of things and how they're connected, how things are moving. So in meditation, for example, I can go above a city or even a country, and I can ask, what is the dominant color, the vibration of this country as a collective? And then usually I can see exactly what is happening. What is this particular country called to amplify or to shift so that we all fit back into that big web that global web that we find ourselves in within this, galaxy.
Yeah.
Um,
I
Obviously,
absolutely love that. And I love the fact that your background is very scientific,
mm,
because I do get people who get stuck on the scientific and they don't realize that science is so advanced right now. Actually, if you do search for anything, science is so advanced,
yeah.
and there's so much going on that is actually confirming what people in the spiritual community have known all along. They just didn't have the scientific terminology for it. But I also love how you talk about the energy, and I think it's also proof of the energy work is working, because
Yeah.
if you started with a particular color and it didn't change color, then I'd be concerned as a client as well. I'd be concerned, because I'm thinking, well, I came for this, I need to come out um, with a different vibration. And this is so fascinating. So,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. So when you see in color like that, you actually did say that you do tune in, and you can actually tune out as well. So I would say it's very similar to how psychics work, because people assume that you're constantly just seeing things about people. We actually
Well,
don't
I
do that.
could
You could,
if
but it would drive you
I'm not,
nuts though.
yeah, if I'm not grounded. That was in the very beginning because I was always overwhelmed. I
Yeah.
always, growing up, I was always called like the pessimistic one. Like I always
Mm,
question everything. I'm like, oh, this is not going to work out. This is not going to, always like questioning things. Um, and over time, I realized it was because I was so overwhelmed that
mm,
my vibration was very low. Like literally, there were days or times where I just asked myself, "How do I know all this? How do I know what this person was just thinking about? Or how could I hear that?" We have this joke in our family because we're all very highly intuitive, and we just keep saying like, "Stop thinking so loud." Stop thinking so loud. Or even when we go to places, Jonah usually is like, "Did you say something?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, I didn't say anything. Did you just hear me thinking?" I'm like, "Ah, yeah, must be it." Because we're so connected, especially my son and I are extremely connected in this way. And so you have to practice to tune it out. Like you have to practice to take a step back, or it's just all coming at you, and your brain gets so overstimulated that you just fall into depression, because it's just too
Yes.
much. It's an overstimulation of your nervous system. And
Yeah.
that's what I have with most of my clients. Like I'm like, okay, I'm depressive, I don't know what's going on, I always feel blocked, when it really is about their gifts unraveling, and they just don't know exactly how to tune into those gifts, to ground themselves in the moment, to separate themselves. That's why it says in the Bible, don't be off this world, just be in this world. Because if we are off this world, then we attached to the identity that we are being given, or that we give ourselves, and we get attached to how we experience the world, and everything becomes our truth and our reality. And that's where we're saying you create your own
Mm,
reality, right? It's simply accepting what others place onto us and what we accept to be our truth in
yeah.
who we are, where being in this world, we accept the role as the observer without the
Mm,
attachment to identity, which really, if we look at it, no matter what it is, if it's culturally, if it's in terms of race, if it's in terms of educational background, as soon as we get attached to that and we make it mean something about us on a soul level, we turn that
mm,
into our ideology. It becomes an
yes.
ideology, in almost like we have to protect this. It's like you're worshiping false gods. You're worshiping your false identity that you think you have to hold on to, and therefore you create division within the overall picture of the whole, within the collective, because you're
Mm,
just always in in defense mode,
yes.
instead of in cooperation, collaboration, and in a place of simply being with people. That's why it's so hard for people to just be with people. And so
Mm,
the colors, and really noticing like, oh, okay, I stopped, in my meditation to ask for protection, to activate a protective energetic wall around me. And then I fall into that trap of, oh, I'm off this world. I'm being attached to how people think about me. I'm starting to be attached to certain outcomes when I talk to people about certain things. And that's just usually my sign. I'm like, oops, okay, I need to ground. I need to step out of it, and just get back to the observer mindset.
Yeah, I usually call that the not self.
Yeah.
So when we're in the not self, we are not tuning in so much. We're so controlled with everything that is going on around us, and
Yeah.
it's so easy to be overwhelmed when we're like that because we're picking up so many different energies at the same time from different people. And it's so important to also what you're saying about protecting your energy. Many people don't really
Yeah.
do that, or they don't even know that they can do that. And I think it's also one of the reasons why people have overwhelm and so much stress because you're just going out there every single day, picking up different energies. And then even when you're sleeping, you don't even have the opportunity to discharge that energy and recharge again because you're probably with a toxic partner or your house is full
Yeah.
of toxic people. So it's just continuous. And I love saying to people that it's good to at least spend one whole day on your own somewhere very far away, like in the woods if you can, to just like really dispel all of that and just take in all the goodness and kind of like be centered. But the reality is that we don't have sometimes we don't have that opportunity to just find a place where there's no one for miles and it's just finding alternatives for people because I mean we live in a place overpopulation and all of that but um I'm just so curious to hear your journey in how you came to know what that gift was, working with a gift so that it's not working against you and that
Mm.
it's also a blessing to other people and leading to how how you felt the the need and the drive because I think everything is timing. How did you know when to start filming um, the power of connection? Because I think it's only now that we can see that it was a perfect time, but when you did it, we just didn't really know.
No.
And kind of like now we're just saying, yeah, it actually makes so much sense and it's very impactful because of the information and because of the message. The message is so powerful with where the collective really needs to go. And I think,
Yeah.
it's just perfect timing. So, how did this all evolve within you, with your journey, with the gifting, and with the timing of the movie as well?
Um, it started in 2019, so right before COVID. Nobody expected anything, even though a couple clients came back to me and said, "You predicted something to happen in 2020. You just didn't know what." I'm like, I don't know. I just felt the energetically something was moving. Like it's almost like you have a tsunami coming and you can feel the energy, the power of it, but you can't see it yet.
Yeah.
So in 2019, I got really, really frustrated with my business because I have been trying for 10 years to fit into the typical business message, the marketing, the funneling, the email lists, and all that. And it's just not for me. Most people who experience the world like us are not necessarily the greatest administrative work. If I only have to focus, if I work for someone and only do administrative work, I can do that. I'm very
Yeah.
organized. I can multitask pretty easily. Like for me, it's like 1, 2, 3, just get it done. Here we go. That might be a German mentality, but but if it's for my own business, I'm just like, if I do this, I don't feel the inspiration nor the motivation. Like
Mm,
nothing comes through me that I want to share. And even over the last years, I shared less and less online because I felt so much drawn to just withdrawing from all the social media. I didn't want to come up with content. It just
mm,
didn't. I was tired. Every time I thought, I'm like, oh, what could I post right now? I got extremely tired, almost like an entire wall came down. And I'm like, okay, I think I need to take a nap first before I try that again. Never
mm,
worked out.
mm,
But in 2019, I said to my husband, like, I'm really frustrated because I know I'm really good at what I do. Client testimonials show that it does work what I do, especially in the combination with a somatic psychology and sociology, plus the healing work. And I loved just being with people. I loved going that deep. I just didn't know, like, I felt like I had to separate myself from the idea of business. And I got really frustrated. So one night I was just watching something by Kyle Cease, and I'm like, look at that. He's making a ton of money from this little documentary that really is no special. He was able to put that together, but it has so much value, just what he shared and the examples that he shared. And my husband looks at me and he's like, well, why don't you do that? Like, why don't you create like a social experiment or something and document that? I'm like, I don't know. It sounds like a lot of work. I'm not sure if I want to do that. And so I went to sleep not thinking about anything. And then the next morning I meditated for about an hour, and suddenly it really came through me, almost like, here's your script, work with it. And within 3 hours, I wrote down a 25-page script. Now, obviously, we had to, cut it down to 5 pages because it would have been a 5-hour film. But
Right.
but the whole messaging came together. And then when I read it, it made sense because it was bits and pieces from my work from over the last 10 years. Speeches that I created but never was able to use because people didn't resonate with it. Like one of my TED Talks that I had prepared was about hitting the reset button. And now we're talking about the Great Reset and what does that mean in so many different from so many different perspectives. What does the resetting means within, the common citizen versus the politicians? It has totally different meanings, right?
Yes.
And for me, it was about the resolving of trauma, and that we had to stop. I demonstrated the picture of a backpack. We're already born with a backpack full of stuff, full of trauma. If it's epigenetics, if people believe in that, past lifetimes, anything we carry from generation to generation. And with each generation, that backpack gets heavier and heavier and heavy. They're already starting out with heavier backpacks.
You're preaching like a whole sermon. I would be throwing offering at you if, it's,
So I was demonstrating that. I even had, backpacks, and I was going to use my son as a demonstration. So it was actually a really good one, but they weren't quite open to it. Like, it's not scientific enough. We can't use it for TED Talks. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
But there's proof now.
It has come to fruition. Like, literally, you see it now, and now people
That's the
are
thing
like,
with being a pioneer. You just talk about stuff and downloads, and no one is ready for it, and people
isn't
will
that
not
the
believe it
truth?
until they see this, the paperwork and the research, and you're thinking, this is the exact same thing I said. Only I received the downloads.
Exactly. You just needed darn proof, but I already said it and nobody wanted to listen. And then, of course, the ones who suddenly, when time is right and they take those information, go out and they get the credit for it. And you're just like, whatever.
You were just born
6 years
before
ago.
your time. That's all. You were born ahead of your time.
But there's a lot of people who have this feeling that they were born, that they reincarnated from the future. I've always thought that. I'm like, why can't people see that? Like, why do I feel I talk against the wall? Why can't we, why can't people understand what I'm trying to communicate, and why what is ahead or what we're seeing is possible, is so powerful? If people could just see. And then you get frustrated. And apparently I had many different lifetimes where I had this frustration. But you can't force. You can only show up in a certain way. Even if you have that experience, you've already known all of that. You have already seen the future, and here you are trying to shift where people are at because you see what is possible, but you also see what is going to happen if nothing changes. And there's this kind of scary part, but at the same time, it's not scary for me because I am not of this world.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, well, you guys, call it passive aggressiveness, I don't know, but if you choose this pathway, then this is what's going to happen. I know where I'm going if you're trying to kill me. I know where my family, like, we have been reunited. We have been doing this dance for many lifetimes. We've known each other and we will find each other again. So I'm not worried
I
about
call
me.
that the gift of immortality. Once you
Yeah.
reconcile that there is no end,
Yeah.
then yeah, it's beautiful.
There's just no pressure, you don't feel like you're working toward an end. You're
Yeah,
just working toward a new beginning, a new
yeah.
opportunity, a new chance of life, a new way of experiencing your soul within different um you know within different dynamics. Maybe
Hmm.
it's even a different galaxy, who knows, like, what do we know?
Yeah.
Maybe there are different galaxies out there who do the same research and maybe are way advanced, and they're like, oh, look what those cute little humans are doing. You never
Actually, they
know.
are. Yeah,
You
so
never know.
I've literally been so engrossed in kind of like ancient civilization
Mm,
um and quantum physics, and there is so much. I mean, there is so much we don't. It's not that we don't know, it's because we don't research. It's because people don't have that curiosity. But
yeah.
all of that information is out there, and yes, there are different galaxies exist, and then there's different civilizations, people living all over the place. We can't really expect that we're the only ones in existence. I mean, that would be, very limiting, don't you think? Like, it's just
I
space.
Yeah, I mean, a
Um,
lot of people might say we're a little crazy in thinking that, but
yeah,
why would we rule out this possibility that there are different ways of doing life, different dimensions that we
yeah,
can access to? I mean, just alone the dream state is a different dimension, and that is proven scientifically. It's almost like you're leaving your body. There has been scientific proof about it.
yeah,
So it's like, so if we can do that in a dream state,
yeah,
if we can do, people call it lucid dreaming, and we're kind of leaving our body and reliving certain experiences or certain messages coming through, then why are we not seeing the possibility of that there's even more than that, even more dimensions than that?
yeah.
um, it's when you really, really practice meditation,
Mm,
you just know,
mm,
because I only meditate with music. Music has a really important,
yes.
is a very important factor in my life.
Mm,
When I listen to specific music, it's almost like the waves, the frequency carries me. It carries me
mm.
higher and higher and higher. So I have to be very careful what I listen to.
Music
I
you listen to,
rarely
yes.
listen to mainstream music at all because it's very um pulling, down pulling, very,
Yeah,
just even, when we talk about words have power, we none of us should probably listen to the music.
exactly.
Um
Yeah,
so I
and
don't do that.
even the frequency of those particular songs, even
Yeah.
without the words, if you put the instrumentals alone, you would feel something. I mean,
Yes.
there's sounds which are more nourishing to the body, and I mean, all of these things are proven. Um, People who do like the crystal work and the gong drums and everything else, it's just like, hello, it's just out there, and I think um when we talk about not being aware or not being open enough to what is already in existence, I mean, there's so much research done out there, and
Yeah.
people are also talking about seeing pyramids in places like Mars. I mean, why would there be a pyramid in a place like Mars? I mean, they're telling you it's not habitable. So why would Elon Musk be trying to get there? I mean, there's some things that just don't make any sense. Why would you spend all of that money to try to get to a place that you can't leave,
I
right?
think he's just bored with his money.
I mean, why would anyone try to? Why would
Yeah.
they put all of that money towards that kind of research? I mean, it's just some things that even the Vatican owns, like they're leading, they're the ones leading with scientific research.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence. I mean, all of these things are really not. It's not a
Right.
coincidence. It's just like they don't want you to know. They will dim you down with everything from food, water, music, advertisements. So you don't even have time to meditate and be
Yeah.
outside of what
And that
is
is
holding us down.
instructed on purpose. Like,
Mm,
all of that distraction is being created on purpose, because
Yeah.
people who are distracted are controllable. They are
Mm,
you can manipulate those people very easily, because they don't reflect on the information they consume. They just
yeah.
consume over and
Yeah.
over and over.
Yes.
People who
Yes.
know, people who are in force, and I don't say in power, because power is something that's within us. Force is
Mm,
something that's about control and manipulation, which most governments are about. I mean,
I love
nobody
that
can deny
reframe.
that anymore, right? It's the workforce versus power, and that's where it really came to me. Where I'm like,
Mm,
people in power, I'm like, they're not in power, because I am in power of my own power. Like, I know who I am. I am that I am. They're
mm,
just forcing whatever they think is right on people.
yeah.
But I was going to go somewhere with that. Now I forgot.
That's what happens.
Yeah, that does that does happen. I was going somewhere with that, and now I forgot. But what it does, about manipulation. So, people who are in those forceful positions, they know exactly how those things work. Why else would they continuously fight back in such
Mm,
extreme measures? If it was through something like a pandemic, or if it is through financial collapse or
mm,
inflation, like where you literally put one thing after another. I think at this point we're getting to, we're very close to where the global population is like, another thing, okay, we're done here. Like, this is getting ridiculous. Like,
mm,
yeah,
mm,
nobody really is taking things seriously anymore at this point, because it's just getting more and more and more ridiculous the more people wake up, because the
yeah.
more people in those forced positions understand what's happening within the population, the more they realize they're losing control. And the more
Yeah.
they're afraid of losing control, the more ego is trying to hold on to it, to hold on to it. And we all do it in different measures, right?
Mm,
But when you have experienced so much control and force, being able to force people to do something, your ego is pretty big and trying to hold on to that, because it's about
yeah.
survival. And the more
Yes.
you feel you can survive with that, the more you're trying to victimize the people that you believe are under you and under
Mm,
your governance. And so that is where, spirituality comes in. Spirituality in its understanding sets us free. Now,
mm,
obviously, we see now too that there is this extreme spirituality, like having created the extremes where it's all about me. As long as I'm in integrity with myself, the rest of the world can kiss my ass. Those kind of things, right? Where we have to understand so much that we're operating within the whole.
yes.
And
And I think this is why I actually love the power of connection, because everything that you've said connects us back to the power of connection. And I think the solution to me, and I is the power of connection,
yeah,
because there is so much more than I, there is so much more than me. Yes, I need to go within me to
yeah,
discover me so that I can connect with you, right?
yeah.
And I think that's a powerful, powerful message with the power of connection. And I think before we even start talking about that, I want you to just really speak about the vision and what your expectations were with when you were filming it, because I know it was a process. I mean, I followed your process on Facebook.
Right.
I know it was a process. And what did you learn, and what was the outcome, and what was your expectation and your vision for doing this?
I had no expectation whatsoever. I just knew I was called to do that. And
Yeah.
I had enough people in my life who said, if you have received this message, if you have received that download for this film, it will be used the way it is supposed to. This is not your project. You're just the vessel to, bring it out into this
Yeah.
reality. And so the first time I was like, okay, I'm getting really discouraged because I don't have the budget for a film. It's a lot of money if you don't want to just be a little TikTok video, right?
True.
When you really wanted something that has credentials and that people would actually watch. And so I just posted it online. Like, I have this crazy idea. I have no clue how to do it or what to do it, but this is what it's about. I have the script pretty much ready. And within 2 weeks, we had an entire team of phenomenal people together. from award-winning videographers, to people who helped me rewrite the script and shorten it down in such a beautiful way. Editors that came into my life that taught me quite a really good lesson in making sure, especially since a lot of people volunteered their work. So sometimes it really got to the point where, well, you're not really paying me, so I'm just going to do it when I get to it. So it is, for me, the understanding of commitment, of setting boundaries, of trusting the process. There were many times where I just wanted to give up on that. And then we were almost done filming, like almost, and the whole world shut down. Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
So we had to shift things around where we didn't have to be with people. We had to use a lot of stock image, which was fine because it was still ending up being a lot of our own stock image. But it was different than what we had envisioned it to be, but it turned out to be so great because I had such a diverse team as well. And so it wasn't just from my perspective, but also from different cultural backgrounds perspective, where I could ask, okay, the story is based on my experience with African American people in the US. What have I learned? What have I been indoctrinated with in Europe from what we had been watching on TV? And then my, judgments and prejudice coming to the US and having those expectations that just didn't align with who I am, how I connect with people, and how I want to connect with people. And so it was a real identity struggle for me throughout, like from the first time I came to the US. I think that's why I had to leave my country. I would have not been able to do what I have been doing the last 10 years if I wouldn't have left my own country, because it's comfortable being and staying in your own country. And it doesn't, you don't question yourself as much than when you have to surround yourself with people that you're not familiar with their cultural background, with how they do life. Now, do I agree with everything Americans do? Hell no. But I can very much appreciate the lessons in all of that. And what I love about the US is that when it comes down to it, people are there for each other. Just now with our, potential changes. I'm not sure if I want to say it out loud yet. It's like this kind of like I'm saying out loud until it's not complete. But I'm going to talk about it very vague. Anyone who wants to follow me, send me a friend request. You will know within the next couple of weeks. It's more personal. But with that, I needed support for something in particular for that situation. And suddenly I had like 20 women come together from our community here locally and say, I'll help you out, come by and you can pick some up. And it was just so beautiful when you have the right circle. And I kind of, I had that growing up as well, but still in Europe, people are more to themselves.
Different.
It's just different. When you have friends, they were friends forever. Here, it shifts very much. It is almost like during this phase of my time, I'm friends with them, and then it kind of evolves from there. Nobody is really sticking very long around unless it's family. But at the same time, it is so beautiful to see how easy it is for them. Like if I look at Germany, it takes a while before people organize something within community. Where here, it happens within 5 minutes, and you have a whole, community behind you saying, "We have your back. You want to come by? We're going to help you." Like, and you don't even know those people. There is just an incredible sense of trust, which is also funny because US is about extremes. That you're always shown the extremes, and I think that's where the role of the US comes in very, very highly and very important, at a very high stand, because the US is reflecting in its entirety the extremes within ourselves. Worldwide. So it plays a very big role in understanding where are we within ourselves operate within the extremes, and how does that show up. So I love being here and just watching that and observing that. So it has been an incredible lesson. But with the film, we really had an incredible team that gave me that feedback. I'm like, okay, here, this is where we might want to communicate that differently. And it turned out really, really great. We had over
Beautiful.
20 awards so far, international. I didn't even think anyone would really look at it to, review it, to consider it. But the first ones were in the US. And it's funny because the first awards that we received turned out that people that I was friends with, or, we kind of knew each other, weren't really close, but they were friends with the people who organized that film festival. And we didn't know that until they already had given me the award. And so it all came back together where it's just like, yep, this is what community is truly about. And that is
Yeah.
what I'm learning here in the US. What is community truly about? Because
Mm.
a lot of people are really waking up. A lot of people yearn for this type of community. If it's within, I know it's a huge, opinion about gifting communities, but really, if you do it right, if you really understand the concept behind a sacred economy, this is extremely life-changing, and it has been for me for so many reasons. You practice community, coming together in unity, communing, being in communion. That's what I was going to say, being in communion with each other, right?
Mm.
So it goes back to a biblical, a spiritual understanding, and how we're connected to each other, how
Yeah.
we influence each other, and at the same time how we can change each other's lives in such
Mm.
a way that we can say we're taking our power back. Like,
Yeah.
we're no longer under the control of the forces that try to manipulate us. We're here for
Mm.
each other, if you like it or not. You can try to get us down, but we're staying. We're here. We're
Mm.
taking a stand against the injustice, against the violence coming from governments. We're here to support each other. And the more people see that, the more people understand it. Again, the power of connection, right?
Yeah.
The more we will shift tremendously. I mean,
Yeah.
I have friends all over the world, and it's just incredibly beautiful to see
Yeah.
how we might have a different understanding culturally, but yet we all have the same foundation, and that is
Mm.
love.
Yeah.
Loving each other, and accepting us for who we are, no matter the differences, and just having just beautiful conversations and
Mm.
discussions without the judgment attached to it, or me trying to defend myself because it doesn't align with my identity, or whatever you say, threatens my identity.
Yeah.
If we can just
Yeah.
we just listen and acknowledge and give space, and again, we become curious about each other. And that's what
Mm.
seeing in color, and what the film, tying it all back together, what the film really is about, being curious about what is beyond our understanding,
Yeah.
what is possible. Even if we just ask the what if questions, we may not have proof, but if we just, what if there is more than just this galaxy? What if
Mm.
there's more than just this dimension? If we just think in those terms, can you imagine the limitations that are being lifted? Because suddenly it's like, well, what if? And then what is possible for me, right? What can I truly do?
Yeah.
And just for me, I always, I'm always kind of like, oh, I don't have time for this, and I need to really be aware of that. I need to stop saying that, because the truth is, we're all capable of bending time within our
We've
own
got plenty
reality.
of time. I
Yeah.
think we've got plenty of time to do what our soul really wants to express. We do have
Yes.
more than enough time to do that. We don't have time to do everything that we think we need to do,
Yeah.
but we have plenty of time.
Because a lot of things we want to do is probably more
Exactly.
from an ego perspective, like, oh, this is what
Exactly.
is being expected.
Yes.
Just the changes that are coming from me, they will require me to pull back quite a bit, to find a new routine, to understand, like, oh my God, I haven't done this in a long
But I think
time.
that's actually it's beautiful being able to do that, because I find that when we pull back, then
Mm.
what what is really important begins to emerge. What
Yes.
we don't need begins to drop away, because sometimes we pick up so many things, and as you were giving the analogy of the backpack, we pick up so many things that we don't really need. And
Yeah.
sometimes we just need to say, actually, I don't need this anymore and I need to get rid of it. I mean, today I was in a conversation and people were talking about how they've got so many Facebook pages. Should they have them to be able to have a nice, a profitable business? And the
Yeah.
woman
That's
who was leading
exhausting
it
to
just
me.
said, but why do you need those pages for? Why do you have those pages? Because when you have those pages, you your focus and your time goes there, but you don't need to do it. You don't
Yeah.
have to do it, you know. So there's so many things that we do that we don't really have to. And I think also moving from a different community, and I think this is something that has happened to you because you're not in Germany. You went into a totally different new place
Yeah.
and you experience life differently. And I think when people travel more, or when they mix a lot more, they get to understand that, oh my goodness, all my perceptions, all the things that I thought about you are actually not true,
Yeah.
because you don't speak like that. You're not judgmental. Oh my gosh, we share so many similarities.
Yeah.
And I think this is the beauty of traveling. And if people can't travel, just use social media or just engage with people you would never engage with, because
It's
that's the
not that
beauty of life.
difficult. I mean, I haven't been traveling that much over the last couple of years, mostly just within the US, you know. I wish I could travel more overseas, but there were a lot of things in our lives over the last couple of years that just prevented us from doing that. And I
Mm.
know we will be able to get back to that. Maybe at some point we have those little flying cars and we can just fly over the ocean. You never know. The technology might already exist.
Yeah,
Anything that's more environmentally friendly, I'm pretty sure it already exists. It's just being,
yeah,
suppressed. But
yeah.
anyway, yeah, I'm grateful that I was able to travel quite a bit while I was while I was still living in Germany. Just that alone. But I think it's a different mindset anyway for Europeans because
Mm.
really, if you look at it, living in Germany, you were 4 hours from France. I grew up in East Germany. It's
Jump
four
on a
hours from
plane to
France,
France.
30
Yeah,
minutes to Czech Republic, 3 hours to
yeah.
Poland, Denmark, Netherlands, Switzerland, Italy, 5 hours to Spain,
Yeah.
Austria. I mean, you have all of those countries that you get to visit, and every single country has a different culture and different traditions, and you just kind of mingle. And so it's a different mindset anyway in Europe. I'm
Mm.
not saying that there is no judgment because obviously when you have we know how Germany reacts to Turkish people in particular. There is a little bit of a tension in
Honestly,
Russia. I mean it's about history, right?
yeah.
So it makes sense, but if you understand it, you can work through it. And why are we showing up like this, or why is this happening? But you know
So
it
let's
is
talk
true.
about the power of connection and how it actually relates to now. How
Mm,
do you see it becoming more and more um, relevant for this time? Because when you were filming it, you didn't actually know what was going to happen. I mean, we knew what was going to happen, but we didn't know at
yeah.
the same time. How are you seeing the path connection um, impact, or how it could impact where we are now, and how we could actually use that and those concepts to really build better communities and even within ourselves?
Yeah. When I did the TED Talk, I had a really cool trailer, and now I honestly I can't remember if we actually used it in the film or not. I don't know. I have to look. I'm not sure if we used it, but it's like really cool. It shows. No, we did use it in the film. Um, where it shows all the injustice in the world, and then suddenly you have this big stop thrown in, like we need to stop. And that's where we're at right now. So many things are being thrown at us. It is overwhelming. We can't even watch the news anymore because who knows what they're all lying about. Like nobody is saying, well, everyone is actually, it depends on which direction you look at it. Depending on where you belong to, they're all saying the same, and then
Mm.
the opposite is saying the same, on their side of the end. You can't. It's almost like you have to question everything, and that's what I teach my son too. You have to question everything, even when we say something to you and it just doesn't feel right to you. Question why we tell you. And he does. And then we have to understand, we need to explain why we would like for him to do this, because eventually he will make the choices that are good for him, where he listens to his own intuition. And I think people are getting so sick right now of everything that's happening, and just done and tired and weary. Where people are like, okay, this needs to stop. Like, this is getting out of hand. Like, nobody can, be taken seriously anymore. And this is where we're at now. What the film is really helping us is to stop and to really take a look within and saying, okay, what can I do? Because the only thing I know right now is that only we can change ourselves. We cannot influence what politicians do. Yes, well, to a point we can protest, we can engage, but the minute we focus on where am I contributing to what is happening in this world, you shift the collective. Each person shifts the collective, and more and more and more, because whatever we focus on, whatever we give energy, continues to have power over us. Force has force over us. That's better. But whenever we shift our focus and just say, you know what, do whatever you want to do, but we're not complying. The more people say that, and the more people say, like, for example, HOA, it's very common here in the US. I don't know how it is in Europe, really, where you can't do certain things to your property because it doesn't look pretty, even garden beds in the front. It's just like, whatever. But now it's like, you know what? If they have anything against it, wait until we have no food. Don't come to my backyard and ask me for food that we have been growing the whole time, because the necessity and that it's here. But the more we have people who say, okay, we're done, we're shifting, we're going to do what we know is really in alignment and in benefit to the community as a whole, we take the power away from those who are trying to force it on us. If there's nothing to have power over, to have force control over, then they're losing it. And that's what's happening. And that's where the film comes in really well. It's an honest reflection. Where are you? What have you been indoctrinated with? Which part in your life have been programmed in a way that don't actually align? And that goes from politics, that goes from, church and religion, and it goes from family dynamic and culture. Like, we're talking about all of those aspects in the film, and openly, allow people to say, okay, what's really going on inside of our head when we interact within our communities with people? Because community is not just, 10 plus people. We're in communion, even us, just the two of us. We're building a community right now. Like, this is our coming together in unity, talking about those topics. And that's where the film has become, and is becoming more and more important, the reflective part, because we're talking about exercises as well that are quite simple to create more awareness, to, initiate more curiosity, especially within younger people who have never been shown any of this at this point. They're just kind of numb to everything that's happening. And then the adults are like, well, they're lazy and they're not doing anything, or they're being violent. I'm like, yeah, you want to guess why? I mean, they had to learn that from somewhere. So either we take responsibility, or we provide something that helps them to shift and to understand, why do I feel the way I do, and why does it no longer align? And that's where the film, it's just in a simple way. Even if you're not into, all the spiritual language, or if you're not really too much into personal development, the film, I think, explains it in a very simple way. Like, it uses simple language. It makes it very clear, in a simplified way. Like, this is what you need to look at and focus on without overwhelming the individual. And you can watch it in parts. So it's pretty much, each topic it's kind of like 15-20 minutes. It's only 1 hour, so we're keeping it to focus. Stanner, your attention.
I had the honor, I would say, to watch it when it came out, when it released it, and it was so good. So good. I enjoyed it, and definitely, I think it does reflect. It really speaks into where we are as
Yeah.
individuals and as a collective. But I also say, I always say this, and I'm not sure everyone will agree with it, but I always say that the kind of leader that is there reflects the people.
Mm.
And until the people start working on themselves, then the leader is not going to change, because the leader just reflects who you are as a collective. If that's the kind
Yeah.
of person you voted into power, then it speaks a lot about the communities as a whole, and how we got to where we are. So instead of actually what you're, just to reinforce what you're saying, just in case, instead of looking at leaders and blaming them, how about looking at ourselves and how we can start working on ourselves, and just really going deep within and finding out how can we make our lives better, how can we make our neighbors' lives better, because that's
Yeah.
how it starts. It doesn't start at the top like that. It starts with, our day to day, and that is so, so important. So I can't even believe we've been live for 1 hour. Oh my gosh. I think you're one of the few people that I can actually go into detail about just different aspects of spirituality, and you wouldn't think that I'm nuts. And the reason that I actually love having this conversation with you is that you have a scientific background, which I absolutely love, because then you're also speaking from that perspective and connecting it with spirituality. And I think it's something that is so rare right now, and it's so needed. So just to wrap up, I want you to tell us how we can find you. I'm going to have all your socials and everything, so people can actually find you.
Yeah.
But I want you to share about your work, how you work with people, and how you support them through their journeys before we close up, because I think your work is phenomenal, and I'm really looking forward to booking a time with you as well, because I would
Oh,
love to
yay.
have that experience. Um, Phenomenal, just the way you described it. Yeah.
Yeah, my main focus is on trauma healing, and it usually goes wherever people need to go in that very moment. I'm like, well, how does it exactly look like? I'm like, well, that depends on how ready you are to release certain things and where you're ready to go. I mean, I had literally people who, in that meditative state that I find my clients in, realized, oh my God. Um, I actually have been coming from a different planet. Like all those weird information where I'm just like, oh, this is a little too crazy and a little too out of the
Actually,
world.
it's
But,
not. Yesterday, I was watching a YouTube video. Sorry to cut you off. And this woman was actually talking about um, how she remembers before she actually came on Earth, and
yeah.
it's so common. People remember their past lives. So
Yeah.
yes,
So
we,
it's
we will
really
need to get
fascinating.
into this.
You never know what comes. Like
Yeah,
I'm always very guided by creators. So we're taking a look at what is your belief system really? And often the actual belief system is not just, to earn money, I have to work hard. It goes actually way, way deeper. And often it makes no
listen.
sense, no logical
Yes.
sense in the way it's connected. Like
Yeah.
having no money allows me it gives me freedom. Like those kind of weird connections that we have in our brain, where it's just
Yeah.
like, that doesn't make sense. Um, but it all makes sense. So yeah, people can find me actually through my website. It's easiest because there I have it written out exactly how it works and what exactly where I'm coming from. It's
Yeah.
isabelhunt.com.
I think I actually put it on the post, but I will put it on the comments as well, because I see Robert. Hi, Robert. Thank you so much for joining
Oh,
us.
yep.
I can see Robert has actually requested it. I'm going to put it in the comments so that um, I'm going to put it in the comments, but I think it's also part of the write up. But I'm just going to repost it again just in case, so
Okay.
that people can find you.
Yeah,
And
it's
she's
very.
also in the group that we're in. Robert,
Oh
the group
yes.
that I actually create started, and she is one of the women who I am going to be bringing on to speak about just different stuff, because she is amazing like
Oh,
that.
thank
I
you.
mean, that community is just going to be crazy in the sense of just personal development and overcoming trauma and limiting beliefs, and just
Yeah.
really growing in who you're meant to be. So um,
Yes.
she's going to be one of the guest contributors on the group, because yeah, just really good, so good, so good.
Thank
um
you. That's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, and about the film, I do want to mention this. We just recently changed a lot of things on the film website, thepowerofconnection.net, but you can also get to it through my website. There's a
Okay.
film tab on the top. We have changed that. So now we changed it to donation based because I need more people just to have access to it
Yeah.
and people to be able to share it. We had it where you buy a $10 ticket. We changed that. So if people want to leave a donation to watch it, they're more than welcome to. But we don't want to hold anyone back who may not have the money but would like to really watch it, or wants to watch it and then they want to donate something to support the work.
It's a great movie.
Because we still have to pay a couple things off from that, but it is quite a budget project. But still, anyway, so we changed that to donation based, so anyone can watch it. I don't want to limit it anymore, and that's where we changed it. So anyone who is watching and wants to check it out, the powerofconnection.net. Okay, net.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for being here, for sharing. We're definitely going to do a lot more in that community, because I think there's so many people who are hungry, and people need a safe place to explore and to ask questions, and to just really grow and to just be. And we want to be able to provide that space, because it's so important. And it's also a different form of community, just building different communities and connecting with people from all over the world, and being able to receive from so many people, because different people have got different experiences. I mean, your experiences are very, very different from mine, and it's about being able to honor your experiences and seeing where people need that. It's kind of like the way you see what the cities need. I kind of like see what people need, because it's all the same thing. We're building, just really building communities, and making sure we're giving people the tools. Because sometimes going online, it's not so easy to find what you're looking for. There's sometimes there's so much noise and not enough content that you would want to be able to glean on. So thank you so much for making time. I really appreciate you, and all the best with everything else. And
yes, when time comes, I will share it on my personal profile. Yes, there's going to be a lot of changes, so
definitely.
probably won't engage too much in June, July, but after that,
Yeah,
I will make
I
it
am
work
so
again. I
looking
just
forward to it.
cannot not do this work. I keep saying that to my husband too. He's like, "Well, you just why don't you just take a year off?" I'm like, I cannot not do this world. Like I have this work. I have this
It's your soul's mission.
responsibility.
Yeah, definitely. It's your
Yeah.
soul's mission. So thank you very much everyone for watching. I will make sure that I put Isabel's details so that you can be able to find her, follow her on social media, engage with her, DM her. She would love to engage with all of you too. And thank you so much for watching, and please share this with everyone else, because people need this information. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.